Hello and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest is a singer-songwriter all the way from the United States. I've met him in person, so it's kind of weird seeing him all the way across the pond, and he's here. It's Chris Ruiz. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Good, good.
Thanks for having me on here.
Nah, the pleasure's mine, man. So I'll quickly say how we met. So Chris was doing a little mini UK tour to promote. I guess it is a combination of things to promote your album, which we'll discuss in a second, and also just like because your vibe was kind of like, "Fuck it, let's just do it,"
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. Like, why not? Yeah, if you got a bit of money together and you can just kind of throw yourself out there, get that experience, why not? Like, do
Yeah.
it. Um, and to be honest, like in the last year, in my or last 2 years in my life personally, I've begun to discover more and more what the artist's life looks like, what the creative's life looks like, and it really is just a crazy, all over the place type of life where you look at these opportunities, and they're always a risk, but you're kind of like, well, risk versus reward. The experience always prevails, I think.
Hmm.
And I remember when we were discussing your plans to, because obviously you came to Manchester, that's where we met. And then you went, I believe, to Brussels after that, and then a few other spots. And then you came back home to Boulder, Colorado, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Yep.
That's right, yeah. So lots to discuss there. Let's focus on. I want to talk about the tour for a bit because I think it's pretty
Sure.
interesting to get an American's take on Europe. Um, let's start with this. So, how would you say the UK, the US, and Europe compare in terms of sort of crowds and gigging in general? What was the kind of vibe you were feeling wherever you went?
I mean, right off the bat, I'll say that it's it was different going into. I've never been to Europe. That was my first time ever going to Europe, and so playing shows there for my first time. That's when I'm meeting everybody for the first time. It's kind of getting my foot in the door. Um, but right off the bat, I would call my friends back home and say, "Holy crap, everyone here is actually listening." Like it was so cool. Um, it's not to say that here people don't listen, but I think that as a local musician in Colorado, you kind of get into this sort of pocket of you're playing these gigs all the time. And I think, those are two different sort of conversations of how do you break out of a local music scene because, if I'm sure if I book a tour in the US and people haven't heard me, there'll be a handful of people who are going to be like really interested. Um, but in particular with Europe, when I played the shows over there, everyone just seemed way more into it than I don't know, it was very like everyone was captivated to some sort of degree. They were trying to hear what I had to say, and I really appreciated it. And I don't get that so often when you're playing gigs so often in the scene that I am in here.
It's interesting you talking about that because for me, it brings up a number of questions and also just things in general about being a musician and, as you say, trying to break out of a local scene. So, to give people a bit of context, me and Chris met at an open mic night in Manchester where he was kind of like the headline act, which I've never seen before. Just on a side note, I've never seen um because Michael, I believe is his name, if I remember correctly, was the one who set that up,
Yeah.
and he runs a bunch of different open mic nights very successfully. He has his own record label. He's a musician himself. He needs to book me, give me a chance. I bump into this guy all the time. Like,
Yeah,
I've
it seemed
said,
like you guys knew each other a little bit.
no. I'm like, Michael, give me a chance, man. And I think I'm getting close. I think eventually, maybe when my album comes out, then he just won't be able to say no anymore.
There you go.
But no, he booked. So I've never seen this before. He had like an open mic night feature slot thing that he does, where
Mhm.
you have your standard open mics, and this is another conversation as well. We can maybe explore this a little bit if you want.
Yeah.
in my mind, the open mic night is always you just show up, and you play a few songs and you leave. Maybe you have a beer, check out the other acts, and you go home. That's kind of it, right? There's no
Yeah.
planning involved, hence open mic night. But I mean, I can't speak for other places, but here in Manchester, it's really starting to become like this business thing where you have to like book ahead
Yeah.
and you get booked in for your little slot. And like one place I played, like you were given like a token for your free drink and everything. It's like really official. And I'm like, I'm just,
Yep.
this is weird. Like, what the fuck?
Honestly, it is the coolest thing. I come from you're
I don't
like,
know.
oh,
I'm in mixed
yeah.
feelings about it. Like,
Yeah,
I know
sure.
what you mean. It's good to have some organization because I've seen some really bad ones, and I'm sure you have as well, where it's like
Yeah.
maybe they've never even set up a microphone stand before, let alone had people on
Yeah.
stage. And then there's other ones like this where it's like very regimented.
Right.
Um, and I don't know. I just found that kind of interesting because you played there, if I understood correctly, for about a week. Was that right? Like every day, something
No,
like
I
that.
did two shows in Manchester. So there was the open mic at the Blockbuster Northern Quarter. Is that right?
Right. Yeah,
NQ.
that's one.
And then it was the next day at oh geez.
Red
Oh
Shed,
no.
maybe. Grafton
You were there.
Arms. Oh shit. The first is Scholar. Yeah. Oh fuck.
Thirsty Scholar.
No, that's
A
cool.
lot
That
has
was
happened
cool.
since.
Yeah.
Um, no, yeah. So the next day or so was at the Thirsty Scholar, and that was great too. But I think the as far as the open mics go, yeah, that's where we met, and that was so awesome too. But I grew up in I went to school in Tallahassee, Florida, in college, and I was a part of this open mic scene that reminded me of that open mic that we went to. Um, it was inclusive, people were talking to each other, but it was also super organized. And they used to do featured artist slots back in the day as well. It's a place
Oh.
called the Warehouse. It was basically where I cultivated my live show sort of experience. That's how I learned how to play live, was going to this open mic every Wednesday at the Warehouse in Tallahassee. And in Colorado and everywhere else I've been, normally it's super loosey goosey. You know, you go in, you sign up, you play, and you leave, and that's all great, and it can be. But I've noticed in Europe that a lot of open mics were you had to sign up before. You had to email the promoter and say, "Hey, I'd like to play. Are you guys? Can you put me in a slot?" Most of the time, they're like, "Yeah, sure." But I think what it makes is sort of you got to realize there's so many open mics all over the place, like everywhere. And so if one person has an idea of the kind of open mic that they want to start, and they require people to email them, then they can start cultivating their own basic show of like, hey, here's a group of artists that I really enjoy that want to play this open mic. This is what this night's going to be.
Okay. I hear what you're saying.
Hmm.
But if it starts to become book slots only and you can't show up and play without being booked, it's not an open mic night anymore.
100%. You're
It's a
so
gig.
right. You're
No,
so
but
right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's the
You're so
whole
right.
point is like I still okay. Shout out to Grand Central, my favorite place, and the Shakespeare. Like they do it the classic way. Quite a few other places still do it that way, and that is an open mic night. You show up, and the earlier you get there, the more likely you are to get a slot. And sometimes it'll be packed. Sometimes there'll be no one there.
Yeah.
It really depends, but. A big thing they push on, my friend Kaisha pushes on, which I really believe, is the whole thing with an open mic night, and it's like how you laid it out as well, is that's how you help an artist to build their live experience because they're not going to get booked straight away. The chances of you
Yeah.
getting booked straight away off the back of like your first record and you've never played a live show before, very unlikely. Unless you've got like the machine behind you, it's just not going to happen. So
Mhm.
where do you get those opportunities? You could
You're so
busk,
right.
but it's not the same. Being on a stage, there are certain requirements that, for example, learning how to sing in a mic is totally different than, say, doing a live stream
Hmm.
or singing out in the open or singing with your buddies. Like it's just different. And
Yeah.
I think as well, say what you will, but like stage presence and learning how to kind of switch between songs. Like, let's explore yours for a second. Like, you do it the very classic way. I like to do the same thing as well, where you talk a little bit between songs. Maybe you say like, "Hey, I wrote this when I was dealing with this shit," or "Haha, here's something funny about this," or picking on something that's happening in the crowd, or whatever.
Hmm.
And sometimes that connects with people. Other times it doesn't. I mean, like, for example, you played a song by the Shins, and I instantly fell in love because no one else I know seems to ever listen to the Shins, and I think they're fucking like amazing. And you played my favorite song by the Shins. I was like, ah, I was like, oh, I love this guy. I got to talk to this guy.
Yeah.
Stuff like that happens randomly. You can't predict it, but you still have to kind of approach every single live session as though I say approach it like it was Wembley. Just go in there and don't matter if there's 50 people, no people, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Approach
Yeah.
it the same way. The only thing I think, the only problem I've ever really had with open mic nights, aside from the ones I listed, is like this. You mentioned inclusivity, right?
Yeah.
I
But it
actually
doesn't
think
seem so much.
it depends.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's warm,
I
sometimes
think
it's
you bring
not.
up a super valid point, and I think maybe what it is there is two different kinds of open mic nights, and then there's one traditional open mic where it's like, hey, come on over and play, and that to me is the open mic. So maybe we should just start calling the other stuff something different. Like it just needs a different name, and then people can be like, okay, it's not quite an open mic.
Judgmental
It's
mic night.
yeah, exactly.
Critical mic night. I don't know.
That's
I mean,
right. Yeah.
okay, right. I'm going to rant for a second, right? So nothing pisses me off more than you go to an open mic night, right? And you got these people that go there every week, and you know who you are, so don't get annoyed at me. And they sit there judging everyone until they get on stage, and then they don't give a fuck about anyone else. And the thing is, right, we're all in the same boat. We're not rock stars. We're all struggling artists who want to go on stage and play and enjoy it. And you know what? Maybe make some contacts. I don't know, but we're all in the same boat. To me, it's
Hmm.
not. It's the same as like being on set as an actor, and there's that one person who's like acting like they're a megastar, and really they're just a jackass, and it's kind of
Hmm.
like there's no need to act that way. It's
Hmm.
embarrassing,
Hmm.
and you know what I mean. And that's the thing as well. If you're just humble, you'll never know the type of opportunities you'll get. For example, recently I've been hosting open mic nights, and that's happened off the back of my friendship with the people that run it. I
How
wouldn't
you
have been
liking?
offered
How you
that.
like doing that?
It's fun. I seem to be able to host well. I seem to be confident in that role.
Yeah.
I enjoy it because obviously you get to play, you get paid, and you get free drinks.
Hmm.
Sign me up, right? Um, but also, like, it's fun to showcase other people. It's fun to give people a chance. And also, I like doing things, where it's encouraging everyone to get on stage and just perform and enjoy themselves. Like, I'll give you an example. The last time I semi hosted it, there was a guy and he's with his mate, and he fancied getting on and just singing a little bit. And we were starting to wind down, and he didn't know the lyrics, and he can't really sing at all. But who gives a shit, man?
Yeah.
Like he's coming on, and like I can I can sing, right? But I'm
Hmm.
not going to steal this guy's limelight. I want him to sing, so I'm like pushing him. Like, I've got the lyrics in front of him. I'm like, come on, man,
Yeah.
you can do it. And I sort of did like backing and stuff, and you
Yeah.
know, and I remember afterwards, and this is why you should just always try to like focus on the bigger picture of like making sure everyone enjoys themselves. So he turned and looked at me and he was like, thanks, mate. But the way he said it was like, it's like, sometimes you can say 1,000 things by just saying one thing.
Oh yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like
No,
one of those moments. It was like,
you you helped him through 10 years of trauma with that.
well, more like he knew that he wasn't in key. He could hear it, but he was laughing. He was having fun. Like, yeah, I
Do you
could have
think
sung.
did he have stage fright?
No, I just think he wasn't trained at singing, and he's
Okay.
just, he's a guy.
Gotcha.
He's after work. He's had a few beers. We're up for playing a song that he likes.
Yep.
It's fun. Like music
Yeah.
should be fun.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be this fucking serious thing where everyone just sits there judging everyone. Like, I hate that shit.
Yeah. I
Like
think
that.
it's a good point, man. I think I like what you're doing there with that open mic. That's good that you're doing that because you are
It's,
making it more inclusive in that regard,
wait,
you know.
and that's the thing, isn't it? Like, if you're shitty, you might be breaking someone's spirits, and they might never want to do that again. Whereas if you just kind of give people a chance, they'll work, they'll get better. I've seen it
Totally.
happen. I've seen people where um, there's this one girl I know, and like she can sing, but she doesn't project enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now,
Yep.
an arsehole would just go up to her and be like, "She can't sing. You're not doing it properly." Or you can do like a
Mm-hmm.
good news, bad news, good news. You'd be like, right, the good news is you got a good voice. Bad news is you're not projecting it enough. But the good news is you can get there if you just push it and try this. What do you think?
That's right. That's right.
And like I remember like her taking it on board, and like she was like, "Oh, thank you," and it was like received in the right way because I'm trying to help. I'm not trying to derail someone. You know.
Yep.
I
Yep.
think a lot of
Yep.
the time with these open mic nights, what you have to remember for anyone that runs them is that that might be the first time that someone's ever gotten on stage or been in a venue before.
Mm-hmm.
So the kind of attitude and the vibe you set will really give a lasting impression for that person and might
I
decide whether or not they get on stage.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right, man. I think you've changed my opinion of how these UK open mics are being ran, actually.
I mean, it depends. I'm just picking because I've probably played like a few thousand of them at this point, and I just think that okay, look, there's a lot of good artists out there. There's a lot of competition, but I've always liked to push this idea of like you're connecting with other people who get it, who understand why music is special, why say acting is special, why these kind of things are special, and why we should sort of embrace each other and try and lift each other up rather than just trying to, be like, oh, I'm the best at open mic night. Like it's
hmm
just stupid. Like
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't
there's a
know,
lot of different personalities at open mics, you know. It's some people are there to work on a song that they've been working on and haven't played it live yet, you know.
right?
I think John Mayer would go to Hotel Cafe in LA and he would go to this open mic every once in a while just to play a new song that he's working on. I think that's really cool. But you don't even have to be as high of a level as John Mayer to go and do that. And some people are there every, time it happens just to do it because they love doing it, and that's the only time that they perform. They may never perform outside of it. They may never want to perform outside of it, but every Wednesday they're going to go there and they're going to play because that's what they do every Wednesday. And I mean, to each their own, I guess the way that, whatever the reason is that you were there, I agree. I think it's, you should have a good environment to do it.
I think so. And also like the tone that's set at that open mic night is important as well. Like there's always a
Right.
different vibe with each one that you go to. Like there's some I've been to where like I'd never go there again. And then there's others where I'm like,
Yeah.
well no, just like,
No, I know what you mean.
maybe
Yeah.
it's not run properly, or maybe like, I remember I went to one where it was like really far behind and really disorganized, and
Yeah.
it was fine. I didn't kick up a fuss, but I was a bit annoyed. But I'll give you an example of why I was annoyed. Right, so we came in and we knew that it was going to be late. We knew that coming off the bat, but like they didn't specify like, oh, it's going to be like an hour. It was
hmm
more like, oh, maybe we're like 15, excuse me, like 15 minutes behind or something. So I was like, okay. It keeps going, it keeps going. There were some people that I met there as well who were supposed to be like an act or two before me. And we're just waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting. And we're looking at the time, we're like, damn, this is just crazy. Like, it's like got to like 10:30 and we've still not been on stage. And we're like, well, it's going to fucking end soon. Like, what the hell? Like,
hmm
because it's like a midweek on like a Tuesday or something, right?
Yeah.
And like the vibe's not it. This place, it's great, but like it's not a place to do it. And this is a big thing as well. There are places you do open mic nights and music, and there's places that you don't. This is a place that you don't. I mean, there's like a family in the corner having like a meal, and they don't give a fuck. Like, do
Oh
you
yeah.
know what I mean?
Oh
It's
yeah.
like just like, oh, can you just turn it down and play some fucking Beyonce? I don't know,
hmm
like that. And I remember like one artist that got on stage. She's an amazing performer, like so talented, like such a good singer. and no one really cared about her original music except for us musicians. And then she performs like pitch perfect version of like a Florence and the Machine, which is really hard to sing.
Yeah.
And suddenly now all the random people care because it's a pop tune they know, and that's cool, like awesome.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I remember saying this to this guy afterwards. I was like, "Hey, like, listen, I get it, like, because it's the same. Like, I always perform my party tricks to perform like things like the Doors or the Darkness on an open mic because I can do
Yeah.
it, and
The
people
shins.
care. Well, there you go. You know what I mean? It's like it's fun, you love it, but you're like,
Right.
it's not me. It's part of me, but it's like
Hmm.
not. I wish people would get this same way excited about what I do, but it's knowing your audience, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that was the bigger issue. But the funny thing about this open mic was that like it was a guy. So generally the rule is I don't know how it works elsewhere, but here generally it's like 3 songs or 15 minutes, give or take.
Yep. Standard.
And there was a guy. So there's like running jokes, about people like getting on stage and play like Pink Floyd and like it lasting like 20 minutes. Like it takes the piss, right? You don't
I'm gonna
do
play
that.
one 15-minute song.
Do you know what I mean? I'm going to play all the deep cuts sort of fucking Tool record. Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
So there's this guy, and he's really good. Nothing against him. Brilliant. Um, I think he did this on purpose, though. So he played like 2 songs, 4 or 5 minutes each, like originals, covers, really good. The last song he played, I shit you not, it was like 20, 25 minutes. And
Yeah.
and like there were several points where we're like, okay, that's got to be it. And then it kept going for another 5 minutes. We're like, it was getting insane. I was like, this is crazy, man. Like, I don't know what's going on anymore.
That's just proper open mic etiquette, You got to have that. Like,
Yeah, so it
yeah, I hate that stuff too.
must have open mic etiquette. No.
Yeah, open mic etiquette.
Or is it, it's like sometimes when you're in the wrong place, wrong venue, and you get like people shouting in the corner. Or like one time I was hosting and I had like 2 people start a fight and start beating each other up on the floor in front of us.
Oh shit.
Yeah, obviously I guess we had to stop playing at that point. I was
Oh
just
wow.
like, fuck me, what is my
What
life?
were you
But
playing?
Zeppelin, I think.
That's what it
But
was.
they no, they didn't care. They were just, like when people are just way too drunk and they're like, "Oh, I'll sing something, mate. Or
Oh
sing
yeah.
this, sing something I can sing along to." You know the time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh,
We get
yeah.
Freebird a lot over here. Somebody always yells Freebird.
Oh yeah, you got to do that, man.
Never ending.
Freebird, Stairway, fucking Sweet Home Alabama.
One time at an open mic in Tallahassee at the warehouse, somebody yelled out Freebird, and the featured artist was my friend's band, and they knew that somebody would yell out Freebird because somebody did it every Wednesday, and they play Freebird in its entirety. It was
Oh,
amazing.
oh wow, sick.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's
It was
not often that like a
hilarious.
band actually play because it's a fucking good song as well. Like I hate that
Yeah,
it's
it's a
on the
good
list of
song.
like banned songs because it's genuinely just a work of art.
It's a good song. Yeah.
Madness,
But
madness.
yeah.
Let's move on, shall we? Don't want to do an hour of fucking open
Open
mic
mic
night.
talk.
Right. What did you learn from this tour?
Mm. I think the biggest thing I learned was that you do not have to have a record label or a manager or anything other than a little bit of money and some will to go on a tour. Um, I, I booked the tour probably 3 months in advance. People book tours a year in advance, if not longer. And I just I did it on a whim, and I was like, you know what, I gotta go, I gotta move and get on the road or hop on a plane and go play some shows in Europe. And at first, I was like, well, how are you gonna do that, But I started looking it up, like how do you book a tour independent? And they're like, just email a bunch of places, just do the work. And so, I did it, and I granted, it was only 5 shows, but 5 shows in a month, like I was happy with it. And when I got back, I was like, oh man, that's what I learned was like I can go on tour anytime I want. I just have to plan it ahead. So
Did you notice like an increase in listenership for your album?
I did, yeah. It's kind of hard. Like I think we had some of these, we had a conversation, we had some really good conversations after the shows. But I think one of them fell along the lines of this where, it's hard to, I'm over here being a musician, but I've got to make money. I got a dog to take care of. I got rent to pay. Like, you know, it's hard to get everything done that that you should in music unless you're doing something as big as a tour. And so when I'm doing the tour, my whole mind, I've already prepped, I've already saved the money to do all this. And it's like now at this point, I'm going to promote, I'm going to make videos, I'm going to make posts, I'm going to, really talk to people and share my album and say, hey, this is who I am. Please listen. What do you think? Hey, I'm going on tour. As soon as you say you're going on tour, it doesn't matter where you are. Everyone's like, hey, what's he doing? He's going on tour. Let me listen to what he's talking about. As soon as all of it's over, it goes right back to the beginning. You got to be super consistent, and it's just very hard to stay so consistent when you have all these obstacles. But that's the game that we play. We chose to be here, so.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I think about this sometimes because I'm still caught in the running mill of doing like shitty jobs to keep money coming in, and sometimes it's all right, sometimes it's kind of crazy, and sometimes it sucks balls. But then
Mm,
when you look at the trade-off, sometimes it's worth it. Like, oh, okay, well, I had this time, so I got to see my girlfriend this weekend because of it, or I got to put some money and time into studio. Like I was thinking about that the other
mhm,
day. Like I was in the studio for a week and I was like, oh, cool. So I couldn't have done that if I hadn't have worked, like say the 2 weeks before,
mhm,
like, so you
mhm.
try to kind of look at it like that and be grateful, but it does get hard
Definitely.
sometimes if it doesn't feel like there's like progress being made.
Yes.
Um, what would you say was the most challenging part of your tour?
Um, the most challenging part is probably realizing the lack of preparation that I had for the shows in particular. I booked it 3 months in advance and tried my best to get people to come out to the shows, but all the shows were pretty low attendance. There were London was actually high attendance. That was the most. That was amazing. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but um, yeah, I would say otherwise, you got this like there's an ego that just you have to shut down because you're a musician on tour. You're going to Europe for the first time. You're playing these shows. You got it on a poster. You posted it. Everyone's talking about it, but not really. You get to the show and then it's like, all right, here's 10 people. And look, let's be honest. I am stoked, absolutely stoked to play to 10 people. That's not what this is about. But there is another realm of like, hey, I really want to try and play in front of as many people as I can. And, I think I played in Paris. Paris was a great show, but we didn't bring a lot of people out, and um, I had a local artist play with me, and she brought some friends out. The venue was over 1,000 years old. It was incredible. It was so cool. But when the bar manager is like, "Hey guys, maybe next time you could try and promote a little more," it's like, ouch. Uh,
Do you
so
know?
I think, yeah,
If I could just cut in for a second now, I
yeah,
hate I hate that attitude. Oh yeah, try and promote a little bit more. It's like you try being a musician.
yeah,
Like I know, hands down, you promoted the shit out of that. You did your best. You really tried to get people to come out. And then,
hmm
dude, I've been there so many times. I
hmm
had 4 gigs this year, and I promoted them like crazy. And the only people to show up were my girlfriend, a few people that were like, working at the places, and then like
yeah,
one person who booked it or whatever. Like it's so hard to get people, and there's so many people that you know that don't show up, and like maybe they say they
Yeah.
might and they don't, or
Oh yeah,
you know
totally.
they're just like, oh yeah, maybe I'll catch you next time, and it's like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
you know, I hate to say it, but like I expect nothing. That way,
Mhm.
you know, you never be disappointed. But it's crazy, you know, and this is one of the things I wanted to bring up as well. Like I checked out your album because I'm a man of my word. I said I'd do it, and I did, and I fell in love. I thought it's a fucking
Oh,
phenomenal
thank you.
album. If you guys haven't checked it out, yeah, it's Heavy Eyes, isn't it? It's the name of the
Heavy
album.
eyes.
Yeah, if I'm
Yep.
correct. So I love that song. I loved Superman as well. And then
Thank you.
when I started to no worries, man. To credit where credit's due. When I started to look into you and your journey with music, I realized like it's always been a part of you, and you've never not done it. So
Right.
I did like a little Instagram stalk to see how far it
Oh
went,
yeah.
and I
Oh
gave
yeah.
up at like 2010 or something because I was like, "Fuck me!" He's just always been doing this.
Yeah,
You know, it's
yeah,
a
I have.
lifestyle, and that's why the music is so good, and because your heart and soul is in it, man.
Yeah. I've never stopped. I think I started playing shows when I was 14 or so, and or no, I'm sorry, 16. In high school, and just like with a band playing grunge rock, and I just never stopped. I also picked up the acoustic guitar and started writing. I made my own album, and I would play shows in, Ybor City and Tampa, Florida, and then went to Tallahassee and would play a bunch of shows there. Um, there were ups and downs, obviously, when I think, when you're that young, I had certain opportunities that fell through. I had somebody say, "Oh, hey, I can get you on this tour. I just need you to record some music, and we'll, you know." And the band that I was in, we all broke up, and so we didn't record, and it's just like, oh, everything's falling apart. But I knew that I would never stop, and so yeah, it's people. So I'm a mechanic. I'm an auto mechanic now. I'm a musician first, but the way that I make my money to play music is by being an auto mechanic. And I've had shop owners say like, hey, if you stick with this, like eventually you could run the shop over, and you could this could be yours. And it's like I don't know. I'm sorry. I I'm gonna try really hard to just work as much as I can for myself, and I will never stop trying to play music, or I'll never stop playing music, but trying to be at a certain level of where I want to be. And that's just the way it is. It's how it's always been. And I've turned down a lot of opportunities to to take less money just so I could keep playing music.
This is why I wanted you on my show because I knew that you'd get 100% like what it means to be an artist when it's like all you think about. Like
Yeah.
it's you know I just know that there are days, probably most days, when you're in the fucking body shop and you're just sitting there and you're just thinking about like I should be on the stage right now, I should be writing music right now, I should be fucking around
Yeah.
with a guitar right now that folds in half. What the fuck? He's got a foldable guitar that fits in a
Yeah,
suitcase. True
that's
story.
right there.
Mad, crazy, and I we were all fascinated to see how that would work, and the strings actually bend. What the fuck?
Yeah, to be completely honest, I'm not very excited about the guitar. I thought I was gonna like it, and I got to Europe, and oh man, the first show I played, it didn't wouldn't tune like it was the tuning was off, and I was like trying to get it tuned right before I played, and I was
Shit.
like, let me just borrow another guitar. So I borrowed somebody else's guitar. The next thing you know, in Paris, I played a show, and the nut fell off of the guitar as because you fold it in half, and the nut just falls right out. It's not glued in or anything. I guess some guitars have that, but because I'm folding it in half, I had drunk after the show, and I get to my next show and I try and put it all together, and I'm like, oh no. So I couldn't use the guitar for the rest of the tour, and I had to keep borrowing guitars.
Fuck. Man, I'd have like an aneurysm with the level of stress. Like, because I've turned up the
Yes.
venues before and like played places where it's like, as a band, and
Hmm.
you spoke to the promoter and they're like, yeah, 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 standard, just bring cymbals and skins, and then you turn up
Yep.
and there's no kit, and you're like, hey, where's the kit? And they're like, what kit?
Yep.
You're like,
Yep.
what kit?
That's right.
Find your own kit, pal. And you're like, hey, you're supposed to bring the kit. It's like, I don't know shit about kit, kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, it's stress, man.
Yeah.
No, look, I get what you're saying about like performing in front of people, and like it breaks my heart to hear other artists talk about this as well, because it's like you deserve so much more, and you're putting all your time and your effort in, you're thinking about it, you're dreaming about it, and you're pushing it every single day. And I think the weird thing is as well, like people will ask you, like people ask me. I know, like my little online community, people will ask me like, "Hey, how did the gig go?" And I'm like, "Well, no one showed up, but I had fun." And they're like, "Oh." And I think they expect it to be big, and it's like, well, look, it will only be big if people show up,
Yeah.
and people don't show up. So it's as a musician, you have a quick judgment call. It's like, right, well, do I carry my sadness with me, or do I just perform this like a professional? And you always
Yeah.
choose professional, but you're a
Hmm.
human being, and you build it up, you get excited. Look, if I'm being real here, because I know a lot of people listening will be like, "Oh, well, don't you just love performing?" And you're like, "Look, anyone in that scenario, right, wants to be able to share it with people. When you get up on a stage, it's hard to get excited when there's a room and there's no people in it,
Yeah.
or like the only person listening is the sound engineer, or your
Yeah.
girlfriend who loves you, and like I remember like, I played a few shows. Bless you, Vic, I love you, and she showed up, and like I was like, the only good thing about this gig is you. Like everything else sucks balls.
I've
I'm
had
so
a few of
glad you're
those.
here. It's like, yeah. Well, I remember one time my final show with my first like proper metal band. I was in it like 3.5 years, similar to you. Like we were going somewhere, and then it all fell through, and it's like, oh fuck. But I remember the final show was like we just played to the sound engineer,
Yeah.
and he
Oh
was just
yeah.
like, yeah. And after every song, like, good shit. Just like, thanks, man. Yeah.
Oh, that's rough. That's rough.
And it
Yeah.
was the final show as well, and I just found out like 20 minutes before the band was breaking up. So it was like I had to
Oh yeah.
like, and I was I was like, fuck, and I was like, let's just go and play and enjoy it. I don't know. I don't know I was so upset. I
That's
was
all
like,
you can do in that situation, right?
yeah. And I look back at the old videos and I'm like, you know what, we did it. We really poured our heart into it. I'm grateful for that. Um, it is hard, man. It is hard, and I think that like I don't expect like loads and loads and loads of people to show up. I never expect that. I realize I'm not some big artist, like, it's the reality of it. But I think
Yeah.
sometimes when you think about like, oh, it'd be cool if my buddies were there, or it'd be cool if like a few more people were there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's
You're all, and I realized like I'm always gonna feel that way. Every show
yeah,
that I always play, it's never enough. But there's that's just like a very small percentage of how I actually feel about the whole show. Like
mm,
I really do enjoy playing to whoever, no matter how many people there are, right? So I mean, to say that like the 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 most challenging part of that trip was that the attendance was low. That's like that's a great thing. That's nothing. In my mind, it's like it was like the smallest, you know, thing that I could have gone wrong. Everything else was so great.
no, I feel the same as you do. Like, let me preface this, but or to further extrapolate, what I mean is like playing several shows of no one. Like, and when I say
Yeah,
no one, I mean literally no one. Like, completely empty venue, right?
yeah,
Like, if there's like two, three people, then yeah, fuck yeah. Like, you're gonna get the best concert ever for those two, three
yeah,
people. Like, I'm right
right.
there with you,
Yeah.
bro. But
No,
that's the
yeah,
thing. Like,
right.
I know how
Yeah.
crazy it
We
sounds, but
didn't,
like,
yeah.
getting two, three people is like one of the hardest things to do as an artist. Like, because the amount of
Yeah.
times I've been doing, like I said, like an open mic, right? Like, there's this one that I do. Uh, Shout out to the Shakespeare. I love you, but yeah, I don't know how long it's gonna last. It's just not. It's not for music. It's just we've tried. We really have, but
Yeah,
it's just not that type of place.
yeah,
And good pub, great pub, but just not good for music. And the amount of times like we started playing, we're playing hard, we're playing well, and then like because it's so small, you know, like when it's like really like the stage is just like the floor, right? So
yeah,
the
yeah.
couple gets up and walk past and like sort of nod at them like bye, and it's like right, there's officially no one now, like
Oh yeah,
and like
that's the hardest part when the last people leave and uh I could call them out right now, but
nah, well, it's funny. Like I like to find the funny side of it. Yeah, I just crack jokes. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm playing to millions in attendance, and it's just the barmaid. She's like, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
big dreams, yeah.
yeah.
Fuck, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, was pick up on what you were saying that like you find the positives, like you're in the moment, and there's these positives to be found, and each and every
Oh
show
yeah.
is unique. You mentioned London and London
Mm,
being really good. Let's talk about why that was.
mm. So the coolest part of aside from music, the coolest part of Europe for me was the hostel sort of the hostel world that you guys got going on there. Holy shit. Hostels are amazing. I had never experienced anything like it. You know, we have Airbnbs and hotels, and there are some hostels, but they're not ones that you particularly want to go to. And yeah, so my first hostel was in Ireland. I flew into Ireland, in and out of there, and so I get there, make some friends. I'm like, oh wow, this is really cool. There's a bar. There's like everything is normal. I don't know what I was expecting. I heard it was cool, but it was. So London, I get to London and uh, right off the bat, I'm smoking a cig in the courtyard, and I meet this guy Marco, and we just click really well. He becomes a really good friend of mine very quickly, and tell him about my show that I'm playing. And it was a few days from then, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna try and get some people to go to your show." And so we ended up making friends with a bunch of people in the hostel, and they all came to my show. It was so cool. We packed the pub. It was called Gladstone Arms, and it was a small venue and pub. Sam Barker, I think is his name, Sam Bark. He is a promoter in London who does a few different venues, but Gladstone Arms is one of them. And he had me on with Harry Hart and Serene, two artists. One of them was on tour. I think Harry Hart may or may not be from Manchester, but he was a UK touring artist, and then Serene was a local artist. They all brought people, and I brought a bunch of people, and it was just every seat was filled and people were standing, and it was just one of the most memorable shows. After every song, everyone, yeah. The other thing about it was Sam made a point to tell everyone in the beginning of the show. I'm sure he does this for every show, like, hey, this is a listening show. Everyone is here to listen to the artist. We know this is a pub. We know you got beers, but you're all here for the artist. So let's just kind of show them a little respect and be quiet, essentially. And it worked, and it was great. They were quiet during the songs, loud after. It was awesome.
I never know how to react in these moments because like that place I just told you about that does open mic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Shout out to Kaisha. So when she's hosting them, she don't give a fuck. She'll just turn around and be like, "Hey, you guys over there, show some respect. Shut the fuck up." Like,
Mm-hmm.
she'd be probably a bit politer
Yep.
than that.
Yep.
But no, but she'll be like, "Hey, have some respect." Like, some artists are playing, and I never know what to think in moments like that because I'm
I don't
like,
either.
do you know what I'm saying? Because like on one hand, it's like, yeah, okay, show respect for people around you, da, 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 da. But then the other side of it's like, it's not a venue, it's a pub,
Mm-hmm.
and to tell people to start having fun in a pub feels almost like wrong in a way. Like you
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Like
Oh yeah.
But then again, I don't know because like sometimes people heckle and that's kind of shitty, and or like they're deliberately being like it's a tricky one. It is a tricky one. I mean,
Yeah,
if it's an
it's
out and out venue, then I think maybe you've got you're onto something.
well,
But
I will say this,
it's
in that
hard.
particular venue, he had they set up basic it was on the floor, but it was a stage sort of setup. But they had a PA, they had a guy running sound. If you have a guy running sound in a small pub like that, I think, it kind of makes sense. But like, first of all, was it necessary? I don't know. I used to be a sound engineer, and I would normally say you don't need a sound engineer in a small pub like this. But the fact that they had one made it all that much better because he really took the time to kind of tweak my EQ and reverb and all these things. So it made it sound really good. But I guess what I'm saying is they the only thing they didn't have was a proper stage and the proper venue name, right? So I know what you're saying because I've been in some situations like that where it's like, oh man, like you're gonna really tell these people to be quiet when it's a fucking bar, like.
Well, dude, do you know what's really bad about that is I've been on the receiving end of that a few times. Like I've never said anything, but sometimes the person hosting it will say something, and now
Mhm.
all eyes are on you.
Mhm.
Now everyone's looking at you and like,
Yeah,
all right then, play
yeah,
fucker. Like, I
yeah.
remember like hearing some people in the crowd and like they were like lightly mocking, so they were like sarcastically clapping like yeah like that, or they were just like oh yeah 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 don't make
Yeah,
any noise guys, and it's like oh no it's fuck
yeah,
like
yeah.
I didn't say that wasn't me. I'm just trying to play my songs and get the fuck off stage now because I'm not comfortable.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know. I mean, but then again, the other side of it is like, yeah, like be conscientious of your surroundings. You know, if there's people on stage, like, hey, be nice, man. Try to be nice. You know, I don't know.
yeah.
It's
I
a
think
tricky one,
you got to read the room. If
right?
most of the people are there, I'd say if 70% of the people who are in that pub are there for the music, then you have every right to tell the other 30%, hey, we're having a show. This is about respect here.
Well, that's the other side of it as well, isn't it? Sometimes the expectation is, well, no, you're background, you're filler, you're there, you're the house band, or you're there to just kind of provide a
Yeah,
vibe. So you kind of
yeah,
blend in, and people like largely ignore you, which is fine. I mean, most of those instances you're being paid, so you don't care. You're just like, hey, whatever, I'm just performing,
yeah. I
getting
do those
paid,
gigs all the
great,
time. Yeah,
right? Yeah. Um, but I played them sometimes, and sometimes it's like people are asking for songs, and I've got a few friends who do like DJ sets, and they always tell me like horror stories of how people were just like, hey, hey, play some real fucking music. Like, it's because like there's like a rock alt bar that I go to.
yeah,
Right? I brought you there,
right.
GC, and like he was like, oh, he get people come up to him and be like, play some heavy metal, man. Stop playing like this emo folk rock shit. Play some real
Yep.
shit. And like, yeah, he's probably gonna play it at some point. But like, obviously, just a quick on a side note, if you do like DJ stuff, you can't just go like hop from I don't know Green Day to Cannibal Corpse. Like, you got to like build your way up
Got to
and
ease your
down.
way into it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you got to kind of up and down and up and like a gig, same thing. You don't book
Right.
fucking municipal waste on a show with I don't know bowling for soup. Like you just don't do that. You just don't. I don't know. And when you do stuff like that, you get problems. Like the years ago, the UK fans will remember this when MCR was famously booked after Slayer, and they got bottled like crazy because it was a bunch of metal fans that did not appreciate emo music, which I don't think is right. But
Uh,
that's the promoter's fault for doing that. They shouldn't have booked it that way. But it's one of those.
yeah.
But the whole respect thing, like sometimes you're seen as a prop, and I think that's what it is. You're seen as like I've had it on live streams, not the same as being on stage, but like people are like, play song now, play
Hmm. The
do this for
worst.
me.
Yeah, it's the worst. I don't know, but that's just dealing with hecklers and people in general,
Yeah,
right? I used to date a bartender, and I would sit there at the bar, and the amount of times that she got heckled was absolutely insane. And it's just like that's just people being drunk, really. I think
Yeah.
it's just alcohol.
What are some of your favorite or worst heckles that you've experienced over the years?
On for me, I think just the basic like, hey, can you play this song? And the thing about me is I don't really play covers. I'm not
Right.
a big cover guy. I've played that Shin song every time I play it because I don't want to learn new covers. So it's mainly, there's been situations where like people would be more drunk than usual. They'd be like, hey, what kind of covers do you play? I'd be like, I could do like the Beatles or the Shins or Peter, Paul and Mary. And they're like, no, come on, dude, can't you play some of this or this? And I'd be like, no, sorry, man. And then I would like kind of, you know, do my own thing and try and get them to go away. And then they would just stay on me. And I'd be like, dude, you gotta leave, man. Like, please back up. Stuff like that. Nothing crazy has really happened to me, thankfully.
All right. Let's have some fun. Worst gig that you have ever played, and we'll follow up with the best afterwards. Make you happy.
Okay, easy. Uh,
Yes. All right.
so it wasn't me being a singer songwriter. I played bass.
Slap it a
This
bass.
is for this to be the worst gig, it was I don't know, it wasn't too bad. Thankfully, it wasn't in front of a lot of people. We played a brewery called Under the Sun, and I was playing bass for a friend's band, and we had two or three rehearsals. All of them were trash, and we get to the gig, and at this point, I'm like, oh, cool, I'm gonna start playing bass in this band. Like, sick. Like, I can do that. I could sing backups and play bass. I'm gonna go buy a fucking Paul McCartney Hofner bass. So I go and buy a Paul McCartney Hofner bass, and I uh, learn some of these songs, but not well enough. And I completely butchered the gig. And if you're playing bass in general, and you fuck up those parts, like everybody knows first of all that it's you, and then second of all, the whole band sucks because bass and drums, dude. If you don't have good bass and drums, your band sucks. So yeah, I don't know. I felt really bad. It was like mostly my fault. I wasn't the only one who messed up those songs, but I was the guy. I was the guy.
What was the fallout afterwards? Was it just like, hey, dude, maybe don't play bass anymore?
It was no, it was hey man, you need to practice, or like you should really learn those songs. Like um, you know, things that just hurt you. No big deal though, man. I sold the bass. I'm no longer a bass player. I'm a retired bass player. We
Fuck.
ended up playing. We did one more gig. We played the Fox Theater. I did good on that gig. Everything was fine. But after that, I was like, I don't want to do this. I'd rather spend all this effort I'd have to put into the bass, into my songwriting. And so that's kind of what I did.
Best gig ever. Let's go
Best gig
happy
ever.
memories.
Yeah, happy memories. I want to say it would probably be with my band. Probably when we played the Fox Theater. It's a venue over here that is it's a staple venue. You've got to play the Fox Theater if you want to be known to anybody around here. We haven't played it in a while, but several years ago we played it a few times, and one of those gigs was incredible. I mean, it was it was nearly sold out, and I think they fit maybe it's like 400 or 500 people. Could be wrong about that, but so let's say there was 350 people in there. Um, the energy was it was the coolest thing. It was really what made me go, I am finally doing what I want to do. Um, just the feedback from the crowd, like making people dance, and that big of an audience too. Like it was incredible. It was so cool. That's probably what it was.
How does being in a band compare with being a solo artist?
Well, that's a hell of a lot harder. Being
Isn't
in a
that the
band is
truth?
tough. Being in a band is real tough, man. I mean, shit, dude. As a solo artist, you can just book a European tour 3 months in advance and go on a whim. I would never be able to do that with a band. You have 5 or 6 people in my band that are constantly playing in other projects, trying to make music their career as well. And, you know, to work around schedules, it's really hard. But the positive side of it is when you get that group of people together and you really start, changing, like, I'm the primary songwriter of my band, and things that I play acoustic, I'll bring to the band and we'll completely change it in just the funkiest, grooviest way. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like the feeling you get of 6 different minds that are your close friends playing music together with you on your song that you wrote and completely transforming it into something, bigger. Not necessarily better, but bigger. And, I think that's like where the magic is in a band. And then you play the shows and you've got 6 times more people that could potentially come versus your one self, right? So if we play the Fox Theater, I can say, hey, everybody, reach out to your friends like in the band. So you get more people coming to shows because you're in a bigger band, but yeah, I mean, also solo artists, I fucking love it, dude. I love being in control of my tempo or my lyrics or my weird tendencies during songs. I like being able to change something in the middle of a song. Sometimes I'll make up a random song while I'm playing a set, and you can't do those kinds of things when you're with a band. So there's freedom, there's a push and pull, but they're both fucking amazing.
Let's talk about your album again, a bit more
Sure.
detail. What would you say is biggest takeaway from your album for you?
In what realm? Do you have a more specific direction or
Well,
just general?
I mean, I like to think that an album makes you feel a certain way. And the album's been out for a bit now, so obviously it's been a while since you
Yeah.
recorded it, and now you performed it live on a tour. You know, so now the kind of dust is settling and everything. Like, how do you feel
Yeah.
about it? Like, what's your takeaway from it?
I think I'm excited to write another one, and that's kind of what it is. So a lot of the songs on the album are there's several of them that are really old. Um, I wanted to put on there so we could everyone could kind of get an example of like my entire sort of what do you call it? Fucking collection of songs, right?
Discography.
Discography. That's right.
There you go. Yeah.
Um, so and then I wrote some new ones, and some of the songs on those albums I wrote in one day and kind of threw it together and said this is the song. I pushed myself to record that album because I was tired of where I was in life in general and knew that music was going to get me out of it, and it did. I recorded the album and I did the tour. And so I'm grateful for it. I love it. I think the songs, they all mean something to me. I think the most meaningful one is Heavy Eyes. It's about, my father passing away a year or two ago. And that was also a song that I had been working on for a while, but couldn't quite finish it. And I didn't even know what it was about until the day before I recorded it. And I was like, oh, this song is about your dad. There you go. And so I just kind of worked out the lyrics and made it happen.
It's a fucking phenomenal song. Apologies for your loss. I wasn't aware of that.
That's all
I
right.
think I think
I was, so my father and I didn't have a great relationship. I barely knew him, right? So it's not like I cert I certainly yeah, I just didn't know. It's a very weird thing. And I think if in the lyrics of that song, it kind of lays it out for you. Like, in my youth, I saw you as a man without a voice, right? Just because he wasn't there. And then, I think the chorus is like, now that I'm older, I've changed my stance.
Understands.
Um, it's a lesson learned to cherish what you have, right? And so I think, I went years and years not talking to him, kind of bitter about him not talking to me, and then he is going to pass away. So I go visit him and say goodbye. And I say, oh, I wish things were different, but you know, it's all good.
It's just
And
a really
he,
beautiful song, man. Like,
thank you. Yeah.
I don't know, I'm just thinking of the lyrics in my head. Like, I've been singing it on the way to the studio and just like walking around, just like, isn't it lovely? Isn't it sad? Cherish what you had. Like, it just goes over and over in my head. Like, a good song is a good song.
Yeah, I
Um,
appreciate it.
and
But
what you
yeah,
said about, the first thing you said is, I'm excited to write more. I know exactly what you mean. Like,
yeah,
I so
yeah,
badly want to get my album out there and I
yeah,
want to
yeah.
start writing again.
Oh
I want to
yeah.
get more. It's good.
Yeah, man. I've got hundreds and hundreds of songs in my
Yes.
voice memos that are either half done or just me going blah 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 blah, blah. And I every now and then I'll just kind of play like fucking, roulette with it and just stop it and say, what is this? And then I'll listen to it, and if I like it, I'll try and rejuvenate it. But yeah, I've got some new songs coming out that working on right now.
Oh, cool. EP or an album?
I think I'm just gonna do another album.
Sick. I
I
can't wait for
mean,
that.
with the acoustic stuff, it's easy to just put them together, and the band is working on an EP right now as well. You pointed your finger. I want to know what you were gonna say.
Oh, I'm just like a little kid in a candy shop with this, man. I'm excited about you releasing new music, and I was also thinking about what you said. We're talking about rejuvenating old songs. So on
Hmm.
my album, what I'm thinking will be the lead single, same
Hmm.
exact thing. It was sitting there in like from years ago, and I was trying to pick songs. I had, same as yourself, hundreds of songs sitting there. And I'm like, all right, what do I want to get out? What do I know people want to hear? But like, it's got
Hmm.
to kind of make sense. The album's got to kind of come together in a little bit of a way and have its own vibe. And like for my album, it speaks of unrequited love, dream chasing, the idea of second chances, loneliness, all kind of tying together. It's like the struggles of all this stuff tied together. But one thing I've always tried to push in everything that I do is this idea of hope. Even in the sadness, there's hope. There's a glimmer of hope, and
Yeah.
um, that, in essence, is what the album is. And there's one song on it. It's called "It Just Takes Time," and I was just jamming that one day, and I was like, "What if it was like this?" And then we took it to the studio, and like half the album has drums and bass and like fucking organs and shit on it, and the rest is just like stripped back acoustic, right? And now I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I need to get a band to play this. I need this, that, and the other," and like that is the best thing to hear. Like you getting excited about the prospect of writing more, and like I think
Yeah.
that's the best place you can be as a musician is that excited vibe. Like, oh, I want to do more. I want to write more. I want to get touring more. And like
Yeah.
honestly, dude, do it. Please do. You're a fantastic songwriter, and it would be exciting to see you do more. And I think you'll get more out of it. Most importantly, you know.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I certainly I will. I think I'm hoping in the next few months I'll have everything ready to record. So, probably by this winter I'll have it out. The band is actually recording right now, and I'm so excited for that. So we're gonna do like a I think 5 song EP. Um, and yeah, I think that's like, you know, ultimately. I really want the band to be how all of this sort of works the most. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically, like I want to go on tour more, and I want to go with the band. Um, until that can happen, I'm just gonna go on tour by myself and kind of work that out, you know. But it's a simultaneous sort of excitement that I have that is just so cool. I'm stoked for it. The band is probably going to do a tour in the northeast of the U.S. in the spring. So we're actually really excited about that. And right now we're playing. We have a few shows lined up coming up. We're playing one in a couple weeks. And right now I'm looking at a list of covers that I have to learn. So, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
What has music taught you about life?
Deep, very deep. Music taught me about life. I would say, oh man, that there is like I think that what it comes down to is it. That's such a deep question. Basically, I would say that you're always going to be learning is sort of one thing. Like you're always going to be let down. You're always going to have highs and lows, and as long as you don't stop, you'll survive and you'll keep going. Um, I don't know. I guess there's a lot of things that music has taught me about life, and I don't practice as often as I should. But if you look at, if you were to consider like a bunch of acoustic shows that I have played over the years, like I've gotten better. So you could say that's kind of practicing. But you get better. Things get better if you keep at it, right? So that goes for anything in life, I think, as long as you stay consistent. And I think that it also sort of taught me like what you it teaches me like what do you really want, right? Like what are you actually going for here? Because if you're a songwriter and you're writing lyrics, you're forced to say things to people in a melody. So what exactly are you trying to say? It's up to you. You could say anything you want. You could write as many songs as you want. They don't all have to be serious. But I think for me, I'm a more of a serious than goofy kind of lyricist. And so I'm always kind of figuring out, it's teaching me what exactly, how I feel about certain situations that I'm writing about. And I think that maybe is probably the best answer I could give you is like the lyricism. It's really kind of teaching me what I truly care about.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice I've ever received is probably I laugh because I was just playing a show the other day, and in one of my songs, I've got this chorus that goes, "An old man he once told me, bum 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 bum, you'll break your knees, just trying to live free. You gotta something something something." The point is I gave my own advice. I was telling this audience, like, you know, I say that this old man once told me that you'll break your knees just trying to live free. You got to play to change the game. But in reality, like I was the one saying that to myself. um, I don't know. That's just a weird little side story. I think the best was a patience quote that my brother had said to me many, many years ago. I was a child. He's like, patience. It's a one of those cheesy quotes. It's like patience brings many good people, many good things, something like that. It was either that or along the lines of patience is a virtue, but I don't want to say that one because I think that's not it. But I think patience is really like it's come from several people in my life. I think, you know, having patience is probably the most important thing that I have like it's the most important skill. The biggest skill that I've learned over the years is how to have patience. And I think having that is important, dealing with people and yourself, forgiving yourself, patience and forgiveness.
Insightful stuff. Thank you. What's the biggest life lesson you've learned so far?
Hmm. Ah, I could get real dark with this one. Not dark, but what is it? Cynicism, cynical.
Just say what you think, man.
Um,
That's
I
always the right answer.
what so that there's the whole thought of like nothing matters, right?
Okay.
I think to a certain extent nothing matters, but I think I think it's just a way to look around. Um, how do I say this? You're you and you're on this fucking journey. You didn't choose to be here and now you're here. So how are you going to deal with it? What are you going to do? Does it really fucking matter? No. Have a good time and do what you want to do and be a good person. That's what I think life is. I don't have to become a successful touring musician to enjoy my life. Yes, I want to do it. Yes, that's what I'm going to be doing. Like that's my actions. That's what I will be trying to do. But to be happy, I don't think you need to get there. I think you can be happy now. I think you can enjoy everything you're doing. Does it matter if you get there or not? No. That's kind of what I mean by like nothing matters. Like doesn't fucking matter. Be a good person and enjoy life and strive for your goals.
You wonder about that sometimes because, like, I'm relentlessly pursuing these different things in life, and sometimes I thought about the idea of like, if I got what I wanted, would I really be happy?
Right.
Because you don't know until you've got it, until your life's changed.
Right.
And all I know for definite is what I don't want to do in life. I don't want to do a
Yeah.
9 to 5. I don't want to work fucking 60, 70 hour weeks in jobs I hate. I know those things are not what I want to do. And I know that when I do anything creative, even if it is just fucking like hosting an open mic night, guess what? I love that shit.
Mm-hmm.
That feels right. That feels like what I should be doing. And so I keep pushing to do that.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people get mistaken when they see you pursuing these creative things. They think like your goal is to just become like mega rich and famous. And I don't really care particularly about that. Like, I'd like to be financially secure. That'd be cool. It would be
Yeah. I'd
nice
like to be
to.
rich.
It'd be nice to not have to worry about like, hey, am I going to make rent next month? Like, it'd
That's
be nice
right.
to not worry about that.
For
But
sure.
no, like what you were saying, like if it came down to like being a success versus not, I mean, if you just got to do these things for a living, I don't know. I feel like that would be enough. I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, what
I
even is
think
success really in the grand scheme
right.
of things?
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean success, define it how you will, but I sort of don't think that the point is success. I think the point is enjoyment. I think like food, drinks, friends, experiences, those are the things that truly matter. And yeah, I mean, if you got to be real and you got to realize like, hey, yeah, you live in a fucking capitalistic society. You got to make do with what you have, and you do have to pay your rent. So do what you can to do things that you enjoy to make that money. But yeah, I mean, I would be playing for myself if I had no one else to listen to. I'd still be playing. So
We draw things to a close. Do you have any upcoming projects or final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
no, just Natural Motives is gonna be trying really hard to get out there, and I'd love for Natural Motives to do a European tour. But if we can't get the whole band, maybe we can get a couple. But I will for certain be going back to Europe next year.
Chester.
Um, yeah, I will be doing Manchester. I'll be doing London again. I don't know. I might stick around the UK for a while actually, and kind of
Yeah.
maybe do more shows than I did this last time around there. But yeah, I'll be there next year. So keep an eye out for that too.
Oh, I can't wait, man. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Um, just following your journey, and just want to say a massive thank you for being on the show and for give us a little bit of an insight into you.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's good to talk to you and see you. This is awesome, man. I
It's
was like, what a
nice.
cool guy.
Right back at you, man. I mean, I think the thing that immediately comes across with you is your vibe, both as a person and as a musician. And I think a lot of the time with stuff like this, that's the alluring element, if you like. Like you can do anything in life, but like if you do it with passion and love, that's the thing that really sticks out. And like I don't think when I think about when you came down and you were performing and stuff, like the stuff it was cool seeing you perform. It was cool checking out your album. But the stuff that really sticks out to me was the time spent together, the jokes, the vibe, the feeling of it all. I was like, this is nice. This is cool. This is what it's about. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, man.
it's
Yeah.
cool.
That's the beauty of the of the music scene. It's I thought that was one of the coolest things about it myself was just meeting all of these people who had so much in common yet so many differences.
To the listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast, make sure you go and check out Chris's music. I'll make sure to put it in the links in the description as always. You're not going to want to miss this, honestly. Go check it out. Like I said, I've been I'm too old for this. What was it? Streaming. I'm
Dreaming.
streaming the music on a regular basis. And honestly, Heavy Eyes is such a great album. You will love it. Um, as always, if you like the show, if you like what we're doing, please share, spread the word wherever it is, your Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Please spread the word. I think this has probably been our best year for the podcast, best year or two. Part of that's because of the amazing guests and the conversations we've had. And I think the other part of it is that we're just getting more and more listeners, which is really cool. More people invested in the show and what we're doing. And it's interesting, Chris, like this conversation we've been having about passion and being into things. Like the more that I've spent time just enjoying doing this podcast, the more I feel like it's actually doing better now because I'm not worried about the numbers anymore. I'm just trying to put out a
Well,
good show.
I'll also say you're doing a great job as far as your interviewing skills.
Thank you, brother.
Very well.
I'm trying my best. Thank you so much for being on the show, Chris. Thank you so much to the listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast. And as always, be safe, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.